Hey friends, welcome back to the Area 312 Rock Metal Vodcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kent, along with my co-host,
Rex,
and our other co-host,
Mike.
And today, friends, this is a double dip treat right here. We have Stayce Roberts and Freddy Tierra from the Brave. Welcome, guys.
Hey guys, thank you guys for having us.
It's a treat, and friends, I'll be really honest. We had hooked up with Stayce. We had planned this interview, and we're sitting there talking off the camera, and he goes. Well, we were just talking about some Brave stuff, and he goes, we were talking about battle cries, and he goes, oh yeah, he goes, Freddy's right over here, and I'm like, did you just say Freddy Tierra's in the room next to you? He said, yeah. He said, you want to say hi? And I'm like, yes. So. Yeah, this is awesome. Stayce and Freddy from the Brave, it's an honor. And guys, let's just get right into it. Let's talk about the music. When Stayce, we'll go with you first, and then you, Freddy. When did the music first click with you? And who were some of your earliest influences?
Well, I was fortunate enough that my mom was, back in the days of LP and vinyl, which we should have within the next 4 to 5 months. She would play the Beatles, Creedence, Elvis, everything that I still love today. I mean, my daughter's name is Presley Marie, only because she wouldn't. My first wife wouldn't let me name them John Paul, George, and Ringo, so that didn't work out. But the Eagles, Electric Light Orchestra, all of the stuff that I think people can kind of hear in what we all like today, it's all there. But that's where I cut my teeth, and I knew right away. I didn't build up to thinking about music. As soon as I could hold a pair of sticks in my hand, I was beating on our leather chair. I was a drummer first, which most people don't know, but I was a competitive drummer. I went to state twice in Texas, and but as soon as I got around my uncle who had a guitar, and I knew that to be able to have a successful band, you had to learn how to write. I was probably 14 years old. I picked up the guitar, learned it in about a week, and played it wrong for about 6 years. And then I was lucky enough to take lessons from Bruce Boyer from a band called Racer X. And I think I only took one because he unlocked the entire fretboard for me in an hour. And everything that I was able to do, it kind of made sense. And then a little later, I became friends with Tony Palacios, and took a couple lessons from him. So I think you did too, right?
Yep.
Tony was we were on the same label, and he was always so gracious to us, and still love his playing. We still talk. And so the bug caught me really early. I think Freddy can answer for himself, but I met him when he was 14. He was in my band by the time he was 15. So he was a heck of a player. But yeah, that's how it happened for me. I was always listening to stuff my mom was playing and loved every bit of it, learned every word. The weirdest thing for me was I was listening to arrangements before I knew what I was listening to. I could tell you what the bass part was. I knew what the keyboard player was playing. And as time went on, I became a multi-instrumentalist. So I like on Evie's, I play keyboards. I play guitars, hundreds of them on there. So it all helped. We went to the school of rock and roll for my house, but for him, I think it was a little bit different because Stryper came into play for him. He came along a lot later than I did.
Yeah. Well, kind of parallel. It was all the stuff that my mom listened to. But my mom was, big R&B, Motown person.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't know, it was kind of cool. He still makes fun of all the stuff that I know, but we were actually just playing Name That Tune this morning.
Yeah.
And,
He won.
I started in on different stuff, and he's looking at me like, who's that? I'm like, because you didn't listen to R&B and stuff. But pretty much the same thing. It was all the stuff that my mom listened to. I was always blown away at like my mom's locker of music. It was, like I was saying earlier, my mom is from the Philippines, and they're very studious when it comes to music. People will be surprised at their music knowledge. So it was that, and like Stayce said, I think like in 85 or 86, I think I was 9 or something like that. And I saw Stryper on Headbangers Ball. Was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And
Then he met me.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. He summed it up right there.
Well, no, that's very cool. And thank goodness for moms. You know, my mom, she passed in 2017, but guys, I still have vivid memories, and all the bands you mentioned. I mean, I can still remember hearing Cliff Richard, Devil Woman, for the first time.
Loved it.
The Eagles, One of These Nights, and like you, Freddie, my mom had a vast spectrum. It was just good music. The Spinners, you know, Rubber Band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
I was a big
love the
Motown guy
Spinners.
too.
Yeah, that's good stuff, and my mom listened to all of it. So, so very cool. So we were talking about, and I did know, excuse me, I did know, Stayce, that you play a mean guitar, and you do too, Freddie. But I knew that you did piano, but not. I didn't know about the drums. So, how did you work that out with your brother Randy, Stayce, regarding the drums? How did it came to play that Randy eventually wound up on the drums and you were on guitar?
Well, I already had a Christian band. It was from the onset. I got saved when I was about 18 years old, and I was in Texas. So my folks had gotten divorced. We moved back to Texas, and I didn't want to do country music. I didn't. Later in life, I liked it, but I'm a huge George Strait fan, but I wasn't back then.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't even on the scene. There was no Garth Brooks. There was none of that. So it was really old school country. And when I moved out to California to pursue music, I brought my little brother with me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like his father figure. Him and Freddie, when they met, you could not separate these two. They were brothers. And I was kind of like the older brother that was trying to get them both into my band, because Randy decided he wanted to go with drums, because that's what I started on. And he was a lot like me in that we got where we needed to go fast. So even now, if I read a book, or if I got a class or something, my wife will get mad because she'll go, "How do you remember that?" And I go, "That's what I read. That's how it goes." And it's not cockiness. It's not. I don't know why it works that way, but musically, it was like that from the word go. So if I heard something, I can tell you what key it's in. I mean, we both have perfect pitch, so we can hear something and play it back for you. And people always go, "You make it look so easy." And we're like, "Well, we did our homework. We worked." In the 80s, when I first met him, we would spend hours. I owned a music center at the time, and we would sit there and meticulously just go through these harmonies. We'd spend 5 hours working on one solo, and it's all we did with our time. So Randy came into the picture because he was living with me when he was about maybe 19. Both Randy and him, I was integral in part of them getting saved, and we ended up going to the same church and everything. Well, James, which was our singer for Battle Cries, most people don't know, he was 10 years older than me, and I was the oldest guy in the group when James came in. So he was pushing 40 when we put Battle Cries in, and I think I was 26, and his mom actually signed his record deal because he was only 15 years old. So really, Freddie shouldn't have been on that cover. It should have been his mom. And Randy was, I think, he was 5 years younger than me, so he was 5 years older than you. So he was right in the middle. So he was 14, Randy was not, or he was 15, Randy was 20. I was 25, about to turn 26. And we come to a point, we had different versions of the group. And before we were called The Brave, we were called Fax, F-A-X-X. And our whole saying was, "The truth will set you free." And we used the scripture on our picks and stuff. Well, the drummer was leaving, and James wanted to, when we found James, and we did find him, he was playing in a band, a local band. We didn't like the band, but I heard that singer, and I said, I could really do something with that singer. And so we pursued him, and we immediately got him in the band. Played for about a year or so, and then there were changes in the band, and I always wanted 2 guitars. Our keyboard player left, our drummer left, and I said, well, I play keys. Let me get Freddie, he's one of my students, and my brother in. James would not hear of it, but I kept thinking, well, it's my band. So there's a couple ways we can go about this. So I said, look, I'm diplomatic. Let me teach them 3 songs, and they'll come to rehearsal next week. And if they pull it off, then we move forward like this. He said, okay, well, he didn't know that both of them sang too. I wasn't going to tell him. So I taught him the harmony parts. They came in and they just ripped it up. And what James wanted to do was bring the old band that he had into this band. And I'm like, well, I didn't want your band. I only wanted you. Because I was always a fan of the bands that had the singers. So Journey was #1, Stryper, Kansas, huge. Loved John Elefante's voice, loved Steve Walsh's voice. And we didn't know how fate would dangle Kansas in front of us a little bit, but when we finally got on the label we wanted to be on. And so they came in and they cut it up. Randy had a brand new, I owned a music store, so he'd get stuff at cost, and he bought a beautiful Tom a drum set. I don't think Freddie's ever bought an amp in his life or a guitar. He would take whatever ones I had and I'd give them to him. So that's how both of them came into the band. And then about a year and a half later, we got signed by Pachyderm. We were opening up for a group that they were looking to sign, and John Alfonte happened to be there, and we happened to be closing our shows with Carry On My Wayward Son. So, people have asked me, well, why do you sing? And I said, it could have been any one of us. We all sang. James had the best. I thought he had the most marketable voice. Next after that was Randy, who was a lot more like Jeff Tate from Queensryche. And grunge changed, so we'll get into all that. But anyways, that's how they came into the band. Randy, I just told you.
You told him about me.
No, they both came, and they were best friends, and they both auditioned on the same night, and The Brave was born that night. I think James was still a little indifferent, and I said, well, again, we got a couple ways we can do this. So he knew I wanted him in, and I kind of won those arguments because I put so much work into it, just like I do now. I mean, I'm all over the DNA of every song we've ever had. I was always present in the studio, and so I learned so much from John and Dino. These guys were just sponges, man. They came in and they gave us a new life. When they joined the band, I felt like I finally had the band I always saw in my head. And, God plugged into it, and everybody that knew me then knew I'd say, where we want to be as Pachyderm, that's where we want to be. But I need these guys to do it. And they became part of it, and the band got really, really, really to another tier when they joined. So that's how I got both of these little guys, Randy and Fred. And we miss them every day.
Can I ask you a quick question? You mentioned you got saved when you were about 18.
Yeah.
Can you talk just a little bit about how that happened?
Yeah, it wasn't really, when the Bible talks about God will draw men unto himself by his Spirit, I always would liken that to people that if you were on a desert island somewhere and there was no one else around, somehow or another, that seed of faith is going to be birthed in your heart, and you're going to know that there's something bigger than you. Well, I always knew it. I couldn't put a finger on what it was. And then I met there was a buddy of ours named Mace McAdams who was playing in a cover band with me, and he was saved. And I just point blank said, dude, I'm trying to read the Bible. I don't understand it. I'm trying to read it like a book. And he goes, well, you can't. He goes, you kind of got to let the book read you. And I go, what do you mean by that? And he goes, well, the reason you're talking to me right now is because God set up this meeting. So we're friends. I love you like a brother, but I'm supposed to be telling you about all this stuff. So you just need to start seeking God. And I did. I dug into that Bible. I'd ask him about scriptures, and I would say within probably a month and a half, I was born again. And he's the one that led me to Christ. Then, so that was when I was 18. By the time I was 22, I was in California, and I bought into a music store, having no idea that it would be such a platform for people getting saved. But a revival started in the Antelope Valley, which is where we were at. We had all these long hairs that were coming to see our band, and we never pushed anything on them, but I would always tell them, well, I don't have to. God's going to draw you unto himself by his Spirit. He might use me, he might not. It really doesn't matter. He's gonna call you. The Holy Spirit's going to tap you on the shoulder, and you go, who's that? And you're going to find out real quick who he is. And I mean, how many lives did we see change in that time period, even leading up to us being signed? We had 2 music stores. They all worked for me. And me and my partner, Alan, we must have led, I'd say 30 or 40 people to the Lord through that store or through our concerts. But that's how it started. So Freddie and Randy liked what I was doing. They started talking to me, and before they joined the band, they were believers. So we were going to church together before they were in the band. And but yeah, that's how it happened with me. I had a good friend that was around me that was telling me about Christ, and I've done that 1,000 times over since then, as you guys do in your daily lives. People you meet, you don't know why they're there, but you know why you're there. So that's how it happened for me. About 18 years old, and started the band I think when I was 21, so maybe 22, something like that.
Freddie, what about you, buddy? When did your relationship with the Lord first begin? How did that start with you?
I had I was always a really good kid. My parents moved us from Hawaii in '89. I was 12 or 13, something like that. And man, moving, you know, I've never moved houses or anything like that before. From the time I was born to leaving Hawaii,
He was running through the cane fields.
I was in the same house. And you know, for a kid to go through that, to be plucked out of, you know, everything that you just know on a daily basis. You know, I come from a huge family. My dad had aside from my dad, he had 6 siblings, so there were 7 of them. And you know, 7 of them average. Actually, I'm sorry. Except for my dad, 6 of them averaged 6, 7 kids. So there's a huge, you know, family that we still have back home. It was just my immediate family that moved from Hawaii. But you know, to put not that they thought they were doing the best thing for me. That you know, Hawaii's so small, your friends get into trouble, and you know, it's just a real rough influence. So my dad was like, you know, I don't want my son to be raised in that. And in about 88, 89, crystal meth had just shaken the island. It just came right through and just ripped it. And, you know, when I see it now, it's like, wow, I saw that in 88, 89 personally. You know, I never got into that stuff, but case in point, they moved us all of a sudden. And here I am in California, and it was just like, man, this is huge. You know, and it made me just it tested me emotionally. It really took me away from my entire family, all my friends, and I was just lost. I was just, you know, all I thought about was, man, I turn 18, I'm going back home the day I turn 18, you know. And so for 2-3 years of that, just missing home, I was just super miserable. But I played guitar 7-8 hours a day. So when I met him, I moved from my initial town that we moved to in California to town, Glendale, and out down here in Southern California. And my parents bought a new home that needed to be built. So we spent, you know, about 8 months in Glendale, and we moved to where he had his store in Palmdale. And man, I was like, this is crazy. We leave paradise. We come to like the big, because Hollywood is what, like 10-15 minutes from Glendale, right? Yeah. So here I'm in, you know, you guys moved me from Hawaii. Now I'm in this vast city, you know, and
then came to the desert.
All the way up to the desert, and it's so secluded.
And it wasn't pretty.
And so I'm like, whoa, they have a music store here, right? And so I go, you know, he and I, we're the closest of.
We weren't. Not how it started.
That's not how it started. So we that's what I was trying to tell you guys. I was this punk little kid, but I knew I practiced so much every day. That's all I could do.
He was a stellar guitar player. He didn't know what he was doing, but I had already seen that kid in the mirror when I was his age going, man, I'm really fast. I wonder what I'm doing. I had no idea. And then I learned all the modes, I learned all the chords and stuff like that, and I was going to pass that on to him. But the first day he comes into my store, my brother books it. He goes, man, it's this really cool little kid named Fred. Think you're really going to love him? Guy didn't say 2 words. He was an introvert. I'm anything but. I'm always up. I'm always, you know, in a good mood. And that's what he met. But I was a pretty hardcore, you know, believer. And I thought, well, there's some music we can talk about, see what he likes. And he comes in, he sits down, and I go, hi, I'm Stacey. And he goes, Fred, I'm Fred. I go, okay, well, what do you want to learn? And he goes, oh, you know, said a couple cuss words, and then he flew over the neck. And I'm going, I got to get this kid in my band. I hope he loves Jesus. So he said a cuss word, and I had to stop. I go, look, I gotta tell you about something, man. I go, I'm a born-again Christian. I said, you can come into my store for anything you need, but if I'm going to teach you, you're going to have to show a little bit of respect, right? I said, I won't walk on your feelings or emotions. He goes, yeah, okay. Never heard a cuss word from him again. And we immediately, the next lesson, he learned everything I had showed him.
But I hated him.
But he hated me for about another week. Probably 2 weeks he hated me. Maybe 3. But within a month, we were inseparable. I mean, me and him and my brother, we logged so many hours. We went to the movies, we hung out. We'd go to Walmart and read magazines till 3 in the morning. And I hired him. This is when he was 14. To show you how fast it went, by the time he was 15 and a half, he was signing the deal with Pachyderm. So, but
Freddy's mom was signing the deal.
Yeah. My mom, so my mom,
she was really good.
Store one day, and and she signed me up for guitar lessons.
Yeah.
with him. So I show up in there and I'm like, I have my hair that you see in Battle Cries. You know, he doesn't look the part. He, to me, I'm looking at this guy.
I look like a dentist.
Look like right? So we just don't get along in the beginning. And like I was telling you guys, I came to learn, to know Christ because I was just so miserable. I don't know how, in retrospect, when I look back, I was like Stayce was saying with his experience, one day it hit me like, whoa, that's why I'm here, right? But all the way up until then, I was like, I can't stand this guy. And every next lesson that I get to, the lesson that he taught me, I'm going to show him I can do this 20 times, like in different ways to him. So, weekly, it was like, I'm just going to crush this guy, right? Like with what, I'm just so competitive that way, right?
Get out of my house.
Yeah. So that's how I came to know Christ. I was just this miserable little kid who just wanted to go back home. But I all I knew was football and playing guitar. That's all I did. And so he started to talk to me about Christ. I'm like, man, I just want to play guitar, right? I'm not here to hear this stuff.
We've got to be on love automatic. Say yeah.
But we end up, like you said, hanging out.
He'd come to our house. He'd stay the night with my brother, and
Yep.
they were close way before me and him were.
And this, I'm going to tell you guys a story. I'm going to lead into how a song on Evie's came back. And so, like Stayce was saying, I end up guitar teching him for him. So I watched the band Facts for months, right?
Yeah,
for months.
about 6, 7 days.
There were a couple gigs that I sat in on because Stayce had to close, he had to work his whole 8 hours at his store. And there were a couple of times where he was just late for sound check. Even maybe missed the whole half of a set, but I could play the whole set for him. So I ended up doing it, and I ended up, finding Christ that way. But, he would tell me about his bands. I'm like, man, your band, I don't even have to hear it, but it probably sucks.
But then he heard us, and I'll never forget that.
But this is how I heard it.
Yeah.
So this gig that he's talking about with John Elefante, so I was at the same gig. And
He wasn't in the band
yeah,
at
I
the
was
time.
not in the band. I was there to be like, man, these guys keep asking me to go to the gig. I'm just going to go to the gig so he just shuts up, right? So like,
Still smart, Alec. Still 14, thinking he has inherited all the knowledge of the universe. Then he shows up.
I show up, and I'm like, man, he saw me, so cool. And I think I was driving without a permit at the time.
You shocked me.
Was I old enough to drive?
Yeah, so here I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna bail after this. He sees that I'm in the crowd, so I'm gonna slip out. That was my total plan. So he comes out with this riff, man, and I'm like, whoa! And it was I've always wondered.
Yeah, same exactly. Though it started exactly the same way.
Nothing's changed about I've always wondered.
So the lights are down. The whole town knew us. It was a sold-out fair center thing, so more people were there to see us than to see the other band.
Yeah.
And I come out and I'm playing that riff, and I just saw his head go, "What is this?" And that broke down the wall.
So yeah, it was I've always wondered, and you guys know it as The Waiting on Battle Cries. But those 2 songs just hit me, and I probably came to know Christ the next week after, something like that.
It was really quick.
So that's how it happened.
Yeah.
And since then, he and I have been inseparable for, well, aside from not showing up to play on this album, right? We've been inseparable.
There's a lot of things in the cutting bin that have his guitar DNA. And you guys need to know, over the years that we've known each other, we're each other's favorite players. So I mean, there's not a lot we can't do on guitar. We can listen to Vi and we can play that. We can listen to, one of my favorite players. Oh yeah, right. One of my favorite players is Neil Sean from Journey. Met him. We're friends on Facebook. Most everyone that we've loved playing, we really dug into those styles. For me, Stevie Ray Vaughan a lot of the melodic guys. He's more a little higher tier. He listens to these people that I can't pronounce their names. I go, why do I need this in my life? And he'll show me, and I'm going, I can never do that. He goes, oh no, it's easy. Just go like this. And he goes from one zip code to the other, and I just laugh and I go, well, then you can do that. But we're different players, but similar.
Are you an Yngwie fan, Freddie?
We both are.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually funny that you should mention
We were
that.
just talking about
I'm
it.
like, I don't care how bad you think your band is or how good you think your band is. Ingve, I'm thinking that kind of stuff. And man, that gig that I'm talking about, I was like, that's my guitar teacher? Like, whoa, okay. So.
But it's funny, that night at that gig, I knew I wanted this kid in my band because we had been seeing this band called Racer X that had, everybody in that band went on to be famous, but man, they could play, and they were 17 and 18 years old. And they were just phenomenal to watch. And I saw them probably 3 or 4 times. I know you saw them a couple times. And then we met them all. And I knew that night that I wanted to go that route. I wanted keyboards, but I didn't want to go as deep as Kansas did. I was more Journey or Foreigner. Those 2 bands, that's kind of where my heart's always been there. I like the bluesy kind of vocals. Bands like Whitesnake. I don't like bands like, I'll leave alone the bands I don't like. But the bands I do like, they're all melodic. They write great songs, and they have skill position players. So there's no weak link in the band. And so we always were in agreement that that's how we had to be. When Fred came in, the version of him that joined the band that day, because him and Randy were terrified. And I was just laughing, going, guys, I got this. Don't worry. We're going to make this happen. Had no idea Randy could sing. Didn't know he could sing. He's got a great voice. Freddie can. I almost did a version of The Brave where I had him sing because he played for me and I didn't believe him. And he goes, no, dude, that's me. I said, I'm just afraid to sing in front of you because you always are the one that's working with the singers. So.
And I think I did I've Always Wondered.
Yeah, he did. We did a version of I've Always Wondered. And
I've been hustling the past 15, 20 years to get this. That's why I call it, like he was saying earlier, I call them the Roberts Cemetery. There's a Roberts Cemetery.
Full of songs.
That has
tons of songs.
The best songs. And that's how it kind of, how it's not for me, but it was like Stayce was doing his thing. He was writing for a lot of country acts, actually.
I also wrote for All For One, the pop group, Sings I Swear. They're all friends of mine. I've had 3 songs on their albums. We both played on their albums.
He wrote on it, and I went on the road to go play the songs that he wrote. So
the Commodores, we're friends with them. I've had the piano player in my house playing, what's that song, Sela?
Same one, yeah.
On my piano, and I'm going, well, this don't happen very much. We did the same thing with Michael Sweet. When we came back to do the Trust record, Mike's in the other, I hadn't seen JR who mixed this record. Hadn't seen him since we went on the road. We were gone for 4 or 5 months. Came back, and this guy with really long hair is underneath I walk in, and JR's like, hey, buddy, what's up? He knew we were both Striper heads. We were huge Guardian fans, too. So, I mean, we ended up at the place where we're like, do you believe this is happening? We're around all the people that we love so much, and became good friends with all of them. Michael sticks his head out, and I go, you're Michael Sweet. And he goes, thanks, bro. I like to think so. We became friends after that. He introduced me to sushi, and so it was a neat time. So.
So, friends out there, Stayce and Freddy have both mentioned, and it's a good segue. We're going to be talking about the various Brave albums, but I've always wondered, is one of the newest releases in a video from the Brave off of their newest album that dropped this year. Just, a month and a half ago, Stayce, if that long?
Yeah, July 27th.
Okay, so Evie's Little Garden, and it's an exceptional album. And as Mike and Rex and I were talking, it is very comparable in scope and sound to Battle Cries. And we were discussing that amongst ourselves, and Battle Cries having that hard rock, that hard driving arena rock sound. I hesitate to say pop metal, but it's metal-esque, but that great, nice arena rock sound. And Evie's Little Garden with modern production, it fits that bill. And so what you and Stayce were saying, it makes sense now that I've always wondered was a track during this time period.
Yeah, it was.
And and friends out there, this is my pick for 2021. This album is
thank you, guys. That's cool.
I'm also very anxious to hear Saint's forthcoming album, but I just want to say, guys, I had put this in my notes. I graduated in '89, so I was a child growing up through the '80s. Friends out there, if you haven't heard Evie's Little Garden, go to YouTube or go to Stayce, what's your Brave site address officially?
BraveMusic.com.
Okay. And so there's samples up there too. Check out Evie's Little Garden. Check out I've Always Wondered. And one of my personal favorites along with those, Love Automatic. Man, you guys kick tail on that. That's got a lot of John Bon Jovi influence to it, and I dig it.
Thank you. I love John Bon Jovi. Always have.
Yeah. So anyway, good stuff, this album. And this is one of these albums, guys, I'm picturing when I'm hearing it. Because, you know, music has the power to transport you, so to speak.
It does.
And guys, when I'm hearing this, I mean, I'm even a little further back than this, meaning I'm cruising the strip as a teenager, the top's down on the car, the radio's cranking, I'm waving to all my friends cruising. That's what this album does. And friends out there, guys and gals, if you grew up in the same time period as me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's what you get. That's what you're getting with Evie. So great job, guys.
We really appreciate that, guys.
Yeah, it's like Battle Cries 2.0 with just even better production, or I don't know how to explain it, but they fit together perfectly, both those albums.
That's awesome.
Musically, yeah.
Yeah, when I was listening to it just today, because I was on vacation for a week and I got home and this was in my mail, and
That's cool.
so I got to give it a good listen before we did this, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, this could have come out in the early '90s and it would have fit right in, you know, without missing a beat. You know, Battle Cries was definitely one of my favorite albums during that time period, and if this had come out, you know, at that time, it would have been too. I mean,
Awesome.
a lot of times on the first listen, you know, an album has to grow on me or something before I really start figuring out what I like on it. But on my first listen, I already like so much of what I heard on this that tells me it's going to be a real good album for me. So
Really appreciate that.
yeah.
So
I also had a. Oh,
go ahead, Mike.
sorry, it froze up on me there. I had a question about the history of the name. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got the name or decided on the name The Brave? What's behind that?
You look more like a Brave than me. I'll let you explain.
We were called Fax, and like Stayce said, it was spelled Faxx, and personally, I never thought that name would change.
We loved it. I
Yeah.
mean, that's who we were. You know,
But you know, it was. I think it was just a killer timing that we got to meet John and Dino, and you know we came up. We were actually still playing the Hollywood scene when it was still the peak. So
yeah.
we were very bold about Christ when we were playing Hollywood.
We were playing with big bands too. We were playing with Holy Soldier. We were playing with, if you heard of them in Christian rock and they were on the West Coast, we played with them.
Yeah. So we played all up and down the strip, and you know, in the valley, and so Dino, was it Dino or Ron Goldner?
Ron Goldner
one of
was
the
the A&R guy.
A&R guys. I guess he went back and told John Dino, man, these guys are absolutely bold and brave to be on the scene the way they are, and to be able to be in those top billing spots, you know, on the strip, it was amazing to them. And you know, for us, it was, you know, Stayce and I, we were not, we didn't go to the Musicians Institute that's popular in Hollywood.
We just had good ears. We could sit down and we'd spend a Friday night just grabbing an album and sitting down and figuring it out.
Yeah. So
and it was easy. So
yeah. So the big thing in Hollywood at the time was like you said, Racer X, and it was just
not so easy to figure out.
Yeah. So it was not just dual guitars. It was just, you really pushed each other. If you had two guitar players in the band, you really had to push each other and also be able to, you know, like he said, we're each other's, you know, biggest fans. So there was never an ego trip of who would take this solo, would take that. So most of what we did actually when they saw us were in
Dual stuff.
harmony all the way through.
We'd always do really. People would come and see our shows, and they'd be like, "We didn't know you guys were so good," and we're like, "Well, we were confused at first, going, well, thanks, but have you heard our record? Well, we like it, but we knew how to play for the record. We'd done so many sessions, we knew how to do that. We wanted to shred, we wanted to open up, but I think they wanted us to change the name because Facts didn't really represent the way we were being on the circuit. On the circuit, we were taking altar calls, we were down there feeding the homeless, we were doing all the things that we felt in our heart it was the right thing to do. So we didn't really want to change our name, but John and Dino suggested it, and we're like, well, okay, I guess we're the Brave, and we ran with it.
And I think right at the time it was in the heat of the LA riots.
Yeah.
And in the LA riots, we're traveling back and forth from our town into past the riots to get to the studio. So it was kind of
We were also at the King's X gig when OJ was on the road running. He just reminded me of that.
So,
Oh my God.
yeah, so that's kind of where it evolved from. It was that we were brave to go down in there.
Yeah,
We were brave to go through the riots at the time. And one of the nights that we were cutting Battle Cries, I had made it down through the riots. I got to the studio. When I get to the studio, I think Stayce ended up having to play 2 or 3 more songs because I had to take off. My mom had gotten in a car wreck. Small one, but we didn't have cell phones at the time, so it was like they're calling the studio. I'm out of there, and but yeah. Sorry about the long version, but that's how the Brave kind of came about.
Well, that's actually very interesting. I didn't know that, but now that you mention that, Freddie, I have upgraded to the remastered version, and
There's a such thing?
Girder.
Yes.
yeah, Girder. It's the Legends of Rock.
Oh, cool.
Legends of Rock series, and this was remastered. And they did a fine job with it. Which anything on Pachyderm initially is going to be superb anyway. 2 thumbs up, a 5-star effort.
Yeah.
But and it was even on my original CD. But there were 2 bonus tracks, and I think producer's notes from John Elefante. All Together Now and Running All My Life, they were kind of studio mixes that he did during the riots that I think the production said he would kind of help him think as all this stuff was going on out there. He would just kind of get lost in the musical passages, and
He had to decompress. People don't really know why he was on the road, but I'm going to give you guys a little snippet here that only I know. I mean, these guys have heard it, but when we first got signed, I was the songwriter, so John invited me down to his house. I was like a kid in the candy store. I'm like, I'm going to one of my favorite singers' house, right? Yeah. We always wanted to be on Pachyderm. We'd even given them a demo a couple years before that they kept, but never listened to. Until Dino told me, he goes, if I would have listened to this, I would have hunted you guys down when we listened to it. But we drove down, me and the keyboard player at the time, we drove down, gave him a demo tape. It had Big World, it had Waiting, and Just a Man on it. Not too different than what you hear now. There were some differences because John likes to spruce things up a bit like that. But I go down to John's, and we're sitting there working on Big World. He's the one that brought the big keys in because I actually had a more big kind of groove for the guitar for it. And he knew right away that I was humble enough to go, look, God led me here. Whatever it is that you hear, let's roll with it. I'm perfectly at peace with it. I wasn't married to any of my songs because I could write them so fast. And we're working on Big World, and he gets a phone call. He had just played me. We were talking about when he first joined Kansas. He played me the original demo that Kerry had written of Dust in the Wind. That's how he learned. They took it off the master track, removed all the violin and stuff with Robbie Steinhardt and Steve Walsh's vocal, and I'm hearing the original of this. So I'm already blown away. He gets a phone call. He gets up and leaves the room, comes back, and he's got this smirk on his face. He goes, man, you're not going to believe who that was. And I go, who's that? And he goes, it was Toto. They want me to come down and sing for their band. So the riots hadn't happened. A week later, He drives up to the studio. He spends a couple days with them. The day he's coming back, he got stuck. The riots broke out. So he's coming back from going down to check out the Toto thing to see if it's something that he was interested in. So he would have went from Kansas to Toto. Well, he went down there and saw the kind of lifestyle it was and said it wasn't for him. But that segue that you read inside of the album where he says he needed to decompress, I was there the night he got back. So was Freddy. He was stressed out of his mind. And he goes, man,
it was a total thing.
Yeah, he goes, man, if I drank, I'd have a beer right now. He goes, but not really my thing. But he goes, man, I had these people look at me. He goes, here I am, a darker skinned guy driving, a BMW, and all of these people are looting and looking at me because you had the detour. You couldn't just go down the main road. So what would have taken him an hour and a half to get home took him 5 hours, and he was stressed out of his mind. But he was on his way back from going and auditioning for Toto. So there's a little something.
Very cool.
Did he do any more? Did he do any more than those 2 tracks? That's on the album, the extra tracks. Did he do any other ones that are just like the vocals only and that more or less?
No, the keyboards were John. So all the keyboards you hear, they were him. I spent a lot of time with him, just me and him individually, because I was the oldest. So I was down at the studio pretty much nonstop. So when these guys would come down, I was either already there or I came with them. They were about two hours away from where my store was. They were down at Seal Beach, and I was in the Antelope Valley. And he didn't really mix a lot. But JR, who mixed, people forget that, yeah, John and Dino produced this, but they brought in Neil Kernan, who had done Dokken, Under Lock and Key, Queensryche, Operation Mindcrime. He was one of our favorite mixers. We loved George Lynch. We loved Queensryche, which you can hear a little bit of Queensryche, and I've always wondered. And here he is mixing our album. So it's no small feat. I couldn't just go and hire someone locally to go, hey, can you mix this? By the way, the last guy did Dokken and Queensryche, right? So JR did do a lot of mixing. As a matter of fact, Trust was pretty much mixed by him, even though they didn't credit it to him. Well, they didn't. I mean, I was there. Yeah, Trust was. And by the way, that album design was done by David Bach from Guardian.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
So
what attracted me to Trust, as a side note, is I am, since a very young age, I have been enthralled by tornadoes. I don't know why, but of course I love you guys anyway, but I saw this cover and it's like, gotta have it, it's, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead, Steve.
Oh, no. He just didn't do a lot of mixing. I think on Trust, Dino did some mixing on it. But at the time, we came back off the road and we left and our hair was in fashion. We came back and everyone was wearing flannels and this Nirvana was playing. I'm like, what happened? So we came back and we went from looking like pretty boys to these guys. And, the guy that took that picture, Niels Lozauer, he took the first Van Halen album. So Tony hooked us up with him because he did all the shots for, what was that? What was the record we loved so much? I had curiosity. Miracle Mile?
Miracle Mile.
So he had done all the shots for Guardian. So Tony hooked us up with him. We wanted, we hated you guys. We love John and Dino, but I got to tell you, and they already know this. They've heard it from all of us. We had Battle Cry's album cover. We thought the front with the bandana, we couldn't stand it. We thought we may have the ugliest debut album cover with all these hits that we have. Nobody knew who we were, and we were smack dab on the. I would get kicked out of gigs. I'd be like, no, this is only for the band. And I'm like, dude, I'm in the band. And he's laughing because it's true. But we didn't like the bandana thing, so we reached out to David Bach and said, can you help us? We were, our idea, we want to call the album Trust because Freddie had this riff. That's another thing that happened. When we came back, Randy and Freddie had started to write, and I loved it. I wasn't like, no, my songs on the highway. I'm like, no, man, bring what you got. Let's turn them into something. So we did that on The River. We did it on Don't. We did it on Dirty Water. We did it on Trust. We did Tomorrow. So all of these ideas, When You're Alone was one of Freddie's riffs, and I'm going, what is that? We have to do something with that. So even though we came back and music had changed, we had parted ways with our original singer. It was no longer a fit. I think the age gap was a big thing. We love James, and to this day, I haven't talked to him in 30 years, but I always check on him. Malcolm and him are still buddies, and he's doing well. He had a fantastic voice, and he was the right guy for that album. But when grunge changed, I don't know how he would have sounded on some of the material. Some of it would have been fantastic. It would have been cool to watch, but our personalities were just too different. Well, in my back pocket, I'm going, but my brother. So I started the conversation about Randy. I'm like, hey, my brother's got like a 4-octave range, and he doesn't even know that he's as good as he is. But Randy didn't want to do it. He would hear nothing of it. John and Dino tried him out, but John was really hard on singers. I mean, love John. He's still got one of the most beautiful voices in the business. Great songwriter, genius musician. But I never would have stepped up to that mic after seeing how he was with singers. And he wasn't mean, but he's like, I have turned into John. I want things the way I want them. I've always been that way, but I never wanted to scuffle with someone that I looked up to so much. So I'm like, there is no way you're getting me behind that booth. I didn't think I could do it anyway. I didn't really even think I was a singer. But my little brother, he went down there and he tried out, and John said absolutely not. So I cut all the tracks. Me and Freddie had done all the guitar stuff in about 2 weeks' time in October of 1993. It goes all the way until maybe June of the next year, and we're doing all these acoustic gigs, and we're doing them with, Novella. We're doing them with Fear Not. We're doing them with Guardian. We've become friends with Michael Sweet. He'd call me at home and go, hey, bro, why don't they let your brother sing? He's killer. Freddie and I, him being the huge Striper fan, Michael tried to hook us up with Oz. So we took a meet. So we met up with Oz at a Denny's because Striper had broken up, and he was going to sing for our band. And I don't know how to mute that thing. But we went and met with Oz. He had heard the material. He loved it, but he was already doing Sin Dizzy. I think he was going through some personal stuff, and it was just too much for him at the time. So we just sat on our hands for a while. And I had to have a little bit of a square off with Dino at one point, because he called me at one point and said, Word Records is waiting on this album, and we're thinking about bringing James back in. And I said, well, if you bring him back in, you can he's not using any song that I'm on, because this isn't your band, Dino, it's mine. And it's my vision. And I will tell you this, I love you and John. You guys have been great to us. But if I'm not on your record label and I got to take these songs elsewhere, it really does not matter, because God will he'll rise up a singer. He'll rise up a record label. It does not matter to me. Cancel our deal. I don't care. Calls me back in 5 minutes. He goes, bring your brother down. I said, all right. So we went back down. Randy knocked out all the vocals. And Randy was never jockeying for position. He was just singing for us while we were waiting around for God to rise someone up. But the whole time it was him. And man, let me tell you, if you never got to see that kid live, he was a beast. I mean, he had never even sang a demo. There was no auto-tune in those days. There was no Pro Tools. So he went down there and he sang that record in 2 weeks. And John and Dino then kind of felt like, well, we found him. We're like, okay, that's whatever.
Down by the river, you can hear the people pray. And if you listen to the wind, you can hear what they say.
But he did a fantastic job. But if we wanted to go hardcore grunge at the time, it wasn't developed enough. So you didn't really know what this beast was going to be. It was brand new. Nobody wanted to sound so much like Nirvana, but they wanted bands like Stone Temple Pilots that had a pop sensibility. Nirvana had that, but they were playing chords that guitar players are going, well, this doesn't make any sense. As schooled as he and I were, we're like, why do I want to play this? But we had never dropped down to D. So I don't know if any of you play guitar, but to get that grungy sound, you got to take your low E string down, a whole step. And it gives you this big crunch thing. Well, as soon as we did it, this is no lie. This is how I write songs too. It happens all the time. I went, I go, ooh, what's that? The songwriter in me came out. I wrote Dirty Water on the spot. Mm-hmm. So these guys came in and I go, yeah. They thought I was lame because I was the older guy, and they already knew about the drop D thing because we loved King's X so much. Yeah. But we immediately started playing with it. We've got about 5 songs on there that I think have drop D on it, and now it's routine. As a matter of fact, Freddie and I, we always tune down to E flat. We don't do it for vocals. We just like the feel of the strings. That's what Van Halen did. That's what a lot of the big bands do.
Well, at this segue, at this juncture, because I do want to mention real quick on Battle Cries, it produced no less than 7 top 10 CCM singles.
Yeah, it did.
Great album. Great arena, hard driving arena rock. And then with Trust, yes, Randy, your brother, friends out there, if you didn't know, Randy Roberts is Stayce's brother, and he did sing the lead vocals on this, and he did a remarkable job. And Stayce and Freddie, I want to say that, with Randy on the vocals, and a little bit of the musical shift, this album reminded me a lot of, it wasn't so much grunge for me, but more like Red Sea, or kind of Badlands, or Ladder Cinderella, that wonderful bluesy gritty metal.
Yeah.
I was getting some of that, out of songs like Dirty Water and The River, and then there's Can't Let the Devil Win. I mean, a great album. And friends out there, if you haven't heard Trust, 94 model, with Randy, Stayce's late brother on
94 model. I like that.
What's that?
The 94 model. I love that.
Yeah, well, but that's what it was. But it's still there, and man, I love this every bit as much for different reasons as I do Battle Cries, because I love Cinderella. I love that bluesy metal. I love early classic Whitesnake.
Yeah. So
before they went all hair metal, and I love Red Sea with Robin Calvasari, who also sang with Die Happy. Good stuff. Yeah. So that's what this album, for me, that's kind of my listening experience with Trust. But
that's a Badland. Ray Gillen was Randy's maybe favorite singer.
Probably his idol.
You can hear him. Yeah. So
well, maybe Randy can appreciate what I'm saying, or I'll have a chance to tell him that one. Ray Gillen being with Badlands, and great stuff. And while we're at this juncture, and Stayce, I know that you mentioned Randy. Randy passed in 2007, or as we like to say, he went home. He had the home going with the Lord. At this juncture, we do wish to pause to respectfully remember Randy. Is there anything you'd like to say specifically at this point to paint us a picture for those of us who never got to meet Randy?
Well, there were a couple of versions of Randy's life. There were phases that he went through. When Randy passed, nobody was ready for it. I mean, he was the thing that, I think he was like the thing in the middle of me and Freddy, that when things were good with Randy, we were all the happiest. And he, when the band broke up, I went and got married, and he went into a different life. I wasn't around so much, and we'd always been inseparable. I was always his best friend. He was always mine. And then these guys were as tight as brothers. But then Randy just went down some roads that really were different than the ones we were on, and some good, some bad. And when he passed, we were not ready for it. It wasn't news that we wanted to, when he died, he was working with Ricky Rocket from Poison, and Ricky lived by us. And so building drums, because he had Rocket Drumworks, and Randy, everybody that knew Randy knew that nobody could put a kit together like he could. He was working at Guitar Center at the time that had come into my business and closed because Guitar Center came. So I went into real estate, and Randy was playing in some other secular bands that were bad influences, I think. But Randy knows me. I'm his brother. I would have said, it was up to you to make the decisions to rise above that, or be the light in the darkness and change it. He knows I would tell him that. If he was here today, that's what I would tell him. But I didn't know that Randy had he'd gotten into some things he shouldn't have gotten into, and it's what killed him. And I also don't know anybody else who, when you're going to have a funeral, the drummer from Poison's the first guy to step up and speak to the crowd and quote scripture, But me and Ricky became friends after that. I went out and helped him with his Pro Tools rig and stuff. But all of us who are around Randy on a daily basis, we didn't know the demons he was fighting. Randy and I didn't come from a great childhood, so I kind of had to raise him. And I was on my own when I was 13 years old. So the mere fact that this little light of mine found its way to me and Randy in the world we didn't ask for, but we were in. If it wasn't for music that bound us together, who knows where either one of us would have been. But the amount of people that Randy touched when he was alive, massive. I spoke to a guy that fought in Afghanistan in the first Gulf War, and Randy was sending him music gear overseas. Never told anybody about it. I found out at his funeral. And
for me, it's super tough. I lost my mom in 2018, and for me, it was so hard to
say goodbye.
It was so hard to recover from Randy. Stayce did a better job than me. It's
On the surface.
it haunt me till, man, probably right before my mom passed, right?
Yeah.
And so when my mom passed in 2018, it was like, man, here we go again, you know. And Randy was, we were inseparable, and I think his heart really broke, I think, when he got married and I got married. And
He was on his own.
he knows it wasn't anything, and you know, he was your best man, right?
Yeah.
But he wasn't at my wedding, and you know, that hurt. But he was.
And I was the best man at his wedding, so.
Yeah. So it was really hard, but yeah, guys, it's Stayce is very celebratory about his life now, which I am too. But man, I some days I call him crying about.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
still trying to.
I understand, and just to let you both know that how I can empathize in 2017. Now, I come from a what you call a blended family. There were no steps in my family, but my mom and dad divorced. They both remarried, and I had been blessed in life with having two sets of parents. I had, you know, for point of reference, there was my biological mom and my stepdad, and then my biological dad and my stepmom, but there was so much love in our family that there were no steps. I just had two sets. I had two moms and two dads. And in 2017, both my mom and my stepdad passed away that same year. So I can relate that way. And, you know, I actually had to give the message. I didn't have to. I was blessed to give the message at, you know, at my dad's funeral, his service. And, you know, something that hit me is that as Christians, guys, as Christ followers, we don't ever have to say goodbye.
That's right.
The more appropriate term is, hey, I'll see you in a little while.
Yeah.
You know, when I get home and where you're at. And Jesus, you know, he told us, I am the resurrection and the life. And
That's right.
He's in me. You know, he won't die. You know, he'll. And so, you know, Randy had a testimony. I can't speak for Randy Stayce, but you know your brother, and Freddy you know your brother from another mother, and Randy had a testimony, and he loved the Lord, and you know, I know the Lord's long hand of love and of grace, because I've been a knucklehead in my life.
We all have.
And so the Lord, you know, the Lord's grace, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. And anyway.
I will say this, guys, is Randy was, there were a lot of people that thought, well, you know, Randy always had to, you know, kind of walk in your shadow musically. And I just laugh. I go, Randy cast his own shadow. Randy was a giant musically. He could pick up an acoustic guitar and I'd go, I want to crack you in the head right now. How do you play that? He didn't even know how to play, and he's playing the stuff that I'm going, I don't even know what that is. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know, he'll write songs the same way I do. He'd just pick up a guitar and all of a sudden something was just there. You know, Freddie and I always talk about the fact that as songwriters, because we all three write, you know, Freddie's a great writer too. I'm just faster than everybody because I worked at it so much, you know. So when I start something, I ain't stopping until it's done. Because I always tell Fred, I feel like there's a beacon on my head, and if I don't sit down and listen, you know, it's kind of like just like blessings in other areas of life, it'll pass right by me and go to somebody else. You know, Stryper could have one of my songs next week if I'm not sitting down to be diligent to try and carve this thing out of clay.
Mm-hmm.
And Randy he was his own music guy. He didn't need anybody else. He could have rose to any occasion that he wanted to. He had a monster voice,
Mm-hmm.
and great bass player, great, you know, drummer, great singer. But more than anything, we have a billion laughs between the three of us where he could make me want to pee myself because I was laughing so hard. I'd have to tell him to shut up. I go, dude, stop it. I can't take this. In that Battle Cries band, we had that. And then we started having all these hits, and certain people changed, and we kind of grew apart. And Randy was right for that time. And who knows who he touched, but I know he touched it exactly like you said. He has a testimony. Yep. And I'll end it on this as far in regards to Randy. I didn't see him in dreams at all, and I dream about everyone. And about a year ago, I told Freddie, I said, I saw him. If I can get through this. And it was as real as sitting here talking to you guys. And me and him were just walking. And he goes, hey, bro. And I said, we all called him Dolph because his name was Randy, but I called him Randolph, and we shortened it to Dolph. And so we never called him Randy. And I go, hey, Dolph. And he goes, I go, you know you've passed away. You know you're dead, right? And he goes, yeah, I know. And it was as real as any conversation I ever had with him. And he goes, I just want to let. So anyway, he told me, he goes, I just want to let you know it wasn't your fault.
Yeah. It was.
And I knew it wasn't, but it meant so much to me that he took the time to come and tell me that. Because, I questioned, what could I have done? How could I have reached him, And so God granted me a little grace and sit him down for a minute.
Yeah. It was to not to keep on about the subject, but for he and I, if it wasn't for the bond that we both have,
yeah,
there was no way we could have made it through.
No.
His passing.
No.
It was, he would take it a certain distance, I would grab it. I could only make it a certain distance, Stayce would take it.
Or I'd call him and I said, Freddie, he had to go identify the body.
To go identify the body, yeah. I had to go
get his stuff out of there.
I cleared his house out. And my wife and I did. And that was something, that I just pulled from him. I didn't want him to have to deal with that. I arranged his funeral. And
then when it was my turn, I helped him with his mom's funeral. And I made the program for him and stuff. And so we had that same bond with Randy. But then Randy just, sometimes the devil wins. That's why the song said, can't let the devil win. Well, Randy's the one that sang it. But sometimes he does temporarily. But in the end, he may win a battle, but he ain't going to win the war.
That's right. We are more than conquerors through Christ who loved us.
Well, and then one of the things I thought was, well, devil, nice try, but I'm still here. So.
We've got to be on love, automatic, say yeah, 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 everybody's
That's why the Brave still exists, We still got a lot to say, a lot of people that we get letters from prisoners. We get.
Freddy, do we?
We get letters from all manners of people. We didn't have the internet or any of that stuff back then.
Right.
We didn't even have cell phones. If I could have videoed Dale Thompson singing Snakes in the Playground, we couldn't get enough of it. We became buddies with him too. I mean, he's still a friend of ours. Matter of fact, first person that commented on our YouTube videos, we never had videos. Well, I do videos too. So I told the guys, I go, hey, let's do a video. And they go, who are we going to get to do it? And I go, I'll do it. Just take your cell phone. Here's what I need you to do. Go do that. And we put them together that way. Dale was the first person when we released I've Always Wondered. He goes, well, what a pleasant surprise. You're forever fan Dale, And he's over in New Zealand, but he rocked out to it. So
yeah, that's awesome. I am so glad that you guys, because I do remember you all playing. A buddy of mine, I think we might have were talking off air. A buddy of mine had a magazine called Crosswalk, and he saw you guys in Oklahoma with Bride. And I remember that issue that he had, and I was scouring through all y'all's pictures and stuff. But so, guys, let's talk then about moving ahead, because we still got to get to Evie here and talk a little more in depth about Evie. Did the Brave disband because of the Pachyderm label moving from California to Nashville, or why did you guys disband?
That's the only reason. That's the only reason they moved, and I had a company. They're like, well, we had a 5-album deal. Typically, they only signed a 3-album deal, but we had a 5-album deal with an optional 2 more, because they knew the kind of band we were. And had music not shifted, they were wanting us to kind of become the next Petra. And they did.
Can I get a second?
They were the producers of Petra as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we met Petra. They came and played our hometown, and they all had our album on out in the bus. And there was talk that that they wanted to meet us and stuff. So they sent a road guy out to get us, and we were honored, man. Everyone we met, we were kids in a candy store. We were just like, how is this happening, right? I mean, from Stryper to Petra to Guardian to, Bride, all of the bands that we loved, we were now friends with. Mm-hmm. And we would have carried on in that Battle Cries format, and it would have been very easy to do because that's how I wrote songs. I mean, I wrote Waiting, Big World, and Just a Man in the same night. So, I mean, that's how high my output is. That's why these guys always laugh. They go, "Well, just write us a double album, Stayce." And I go, "Well, I could take a day off." We're actually discussing maybe doing that after this next album. We already have the title. Even though your listeners can't hear it yet, we're going to be sending you a demo track, just so as long as they know it's the demo. It's how these guys first hear the songs from me. I send them to them, or when Freddy's in town, we'll put it together and then we'll send it to Malcolm, who's in Indiana, and because we're in California. And John, a lot of people don't know he plays for Trace Adkins, the country star. So he might be on the road somewhere, but wherever I send it, he goes, "Cool, I'll have this to you by Wednesday or Thursday." Then he'll cut his parts in Nashville. So the album actually comes from 2 parts of California, Indiana, and Nashville. And then me and Freddie, mostly me, I put it all together and I figure out where things are going to go. Me and Freddie handle most of the background vocals. But yeah, the reason that we quit as a band is once they moved, we didn't have the stuff we have now. So you had to have a studio of your own. Nobody had a home studio back then. And if you did, you rented it out, hopefully, or did a favor for the guy or traded a guitarist since I owned the music store to get some studio time. But I remember we were cutting tracks in Studio B while there was a guy in there unbolting the Trident console that's now at the Sound Kitchen in Nashville. So really it wasn't like, hey, let's stay in here and take as much time as we can. It was, we better finish these parts while this board's still here. It might not be here tomorrow. So they left, and when they did, album comes out. We did tour for a while. We played quite a few shows, not as many as Battle Cries, but music had changed and it went dark. Mm-hmm. And, it's funny that you bring up Love Automatic off Evie's because my wife, who has a fantastic ear and an extra set of eyes for me, she can listen to one of my songs and go, "But what about this?" And I go, "I don't know how you do that. I wish I might miss something on a lyric or something." I don't think I'm the best lyricist in the world, but I'm in there. I swing it out with some people, and I write about what I want to write about. That's what I love about being a primary songwriter is I see what's going on in the world today. You can bet it's going to be on the next album because madness has ensued, and we're going to be dealing with a lot of that stuff in our next album. 2020 can't go unnoticed. But when we were almost done with the album, Evie's, and no producer, it was just me. I was producing the whole thing, and I was arranging everything. I was writing all the songs for the most part, only because Fred was moving, and I'm like, what am I going to do without my left arm? Well, he'll come back, We'll be like one of those lizards that grow back. So his lizard boy. But she and I were talking, and I said, one of my only concerns, Janet, is we've got so many minor key songs on this album. I mean, Evie's is a minor key. Run to You's a positive one. That's up tempo. But virtually everything else, up until you get to And We All Fall Down, it sounds uplifting, but it's still in a minor key. And I said, we need something happy. So we're driving home from a place, and this is how Love Automatic happened. I promise you this is how it went. I hear what about Love Automatic? I love that. We should all be ready to just exude love in every situation we're in. I wrote the chorus in my head. The next morning, I came home for lunch, knocked out the whole thing, probably a 7-minute song, but it was exactly how I wanted to close the album. And I got the idea because Freddie had this song called Trust. He only had the riff. He didn't write lyrics yet, but he played it out and I go, man, that's beautiful. We got to pitch that. I don't think they'll take it, but we got to pitch it to them. And
why don't you tell them about how the riff he played is wrong?
Shush. He came up with a version I never even saw. I'm like, you're stupid, dude. I can't play that. It's still hard to play, right? And he's like, well,
you gotta circle back on that one. That's right.
Anyways, the reason that I wanted to end the album with Love Automatic is I remember how great it was to end Trust with an upbeat, positive message called Trust. And that's why we named the album that, by the way, is because when we were on the road with Battle Cries, we saw this little church in the middle of a snowstorm in West Virginia, and we go, man, that's Trust right there. Look at that. This big storm's rolling in, and this little churches out in the middle of nowhere, loaded with cars. I said, that's our next album cover right there. And so we went back, pitched it to Pachyderm, showed them the song, they took it. But that's how Love Automatic ended up on Evie's, is because I thought, well, it needs to have that positive thing because the world's so dark right now. I don't want to give them another minor key thing. We could write Operation Mindcrime if we wanted to, but the world's got that. It needs some hope. It needs some peace. It needs some love, you know?
And all I can say is we got to be on Love Automatic. Hold out a hand, share a little magic.
So, because Love Automatic, just incidentally, it's one of my favorite songs on this album.
Thank you.
Of course, I love We're Not in Kansas Anymore, and Creep's cool, and of course, I love Evie. That's the one that initially grabbed it. But love Automatic. So,
Well, thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong, Stayce. Love Automatic is not available for a download.
No, it is.
It is now?
It is. It didn't start out like that, but then we thought, nothing. We're not conventional anyway. We're selling so many albums. Let's just give everybody everything. As a matter of fact, anyone that ordered a vinyl, the vinyls got back ordered because everybody wants vinyl now. Mm-hmm. So we sent everyone a free CD that ordered an album so that they had something just to hold them over.
Wow, nice.
I got all these emails though. It wasn't planned out very good. Like none of our stuff is. I'm getting all these emails going, brother, I don't know how to pay you back, but I ordered an album. And I go, I know, but I don't have any. They're coming, but I didn't want you to be with nothing. So we all talked, and all four of us decided let's send them a CD. So, and they got the free download. So, but yeah, we made the decision to go ahead and include everything the night before we sent the downloads out, because I thought, man, to heck with all this bonus stuff. These people are supporting us. These people enjoy us. Let's just give them the whole enchilada, and no one's complained. So we're
very nice. So friends, put an order for a vinyl, and you'll get a free CD. No, I'm teasing.
I don't know. That was all pre-orders.
I'm teasing. No, okay. What I was going to say, because initially Love Automatic and Come to Me were not available for downloads, and friends, I was just going to say you need to have Love Automatic. It's, you know, but anyway, I'm glad it's available for downloading. So, guys, let's move ahead. 20 years after the Trust album in 2014, the Brave shows back up on the scene. Y'all delivered the album Rise, and it featured Malcolm Paris from Battle Cries and Steve Irwin from Trust, respective bassists for those albums. Johnny Zimmerman was on the drums at that time, and Amanda Z on lead vocals. So, Stayce, what was the catalyst for the band's reformation at that point?
Originally, the whole idea started because I was in the middle of a mountain range. My job took me there, and it was very resolute. And Freddy will tell you, if you take music away from either he or myself for more than a week or so, we get a little grouchy. We have to be doing something musically, even if it's just playing. But I was all alone, and it's the first time in my life I've been by myself, because I always had my friends working for me. Mm-hmm. You know, when I was at the music store, I was a realtor, and then the market crashed, so I had to go back into retail. And that's what led me to owning a grocery store now, which is doing really well. But I was up in Mammoth Lakes. If anyone's ever been to Mammoth Lakes, it's heaven on earth. It's gorgeous. A lot of snow, a lot of resolute. But you know that line in the movie, I feel the need for speed. Mm-hmm. Well, same thing for me, but I needed songs again. And so Johnny was a friend of mine, been a friend of ours for a long time. And I pitched to him. I said, I'm thinking about doing an acoustic album. Because I never showed you this, Johnny, but I also sing a little too. So I sent him versions of The River and If That Ain't Love, and it was me singing, and it sounded like Randy. And he kind of pitched the idea to his wife to me, and she was always a friend of mine and a fantastic singer, just phenomenal singer. And we'd worked on we had a band called Calling Brando, me and Freddy with them after Randy had passed. We had done a Brave tribute, and we loved playing together. So we had a little bit of experience together. But it was going to be an acoustic, kind of a greatest hits of the Brave stuff with just me singing and acoustic arrangements of it. But then it turned into a project. But the problem was I didn't have the funding. I didn't have the time to do it right. But I still wanted to put something out. I was getting hit up left and right, not only by fans of the band, but record labels. And I didn't want another record deal. Things had changed so much to where I'm like, I do all this the way John and Dino did it on better equipment on a lot of aspects of it. I mean, they had the best of the day. In their day, they had.
Oh yeah.
And if they were doing it right now, you all know it would be top shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd probably be in their studios cutting some things. And they never knew that I could sing, because I wasn't about to let. I'm like, no. I'll stick with guitar. Thank you very much. So we put Rise out. We decided. I said, like, I'll come up with some new songs. I'll write like 5, and we'll put like 6 or 7 of the Brave classics on there. So we did it, and I wasn't afraid to do it. It's not like our band's ever done the same thing twice. You know, we leave, we're kind of hair metal. We come back, and we got to put on sweatshirts, and sing more aggressive. And so we did that. So here we go again with another lead singer, but it's a girl. Who else was bold enough to do that? Van Halen was actually going to pull Patti Smythe from Scandal at one point to replace David Lee Roth. So did it work out well? Not the way I envisioned, but it blessed a lot of people. And now that Evie's is out, people are buying a lot of the Rise CDs, but it's not the same kind of quality. So I told Freddy 2 things. I said, look, Rise, we sold a ton of them. And for us, it's never about selling. It's about, are people still interested? Will they still listen? A lot of guys in the big bands will tell you it's not even worth releasing a CD because streaming robs you of any kind of royalties. So, but if you're doing it for the right reasons, those of us who are just music warriors, maybe the model's changed, but maybe it'll change again. Who knows? But we wanted to give fans our version of what we thought Battle Cries should have been. Because it would have been a lot like Evie's Little Garden. Not that we're complaining. We loved Battle Cries. It was a great experience. John and Dino were a blast to be around. Great to work with. But they didn't know that, like a fly on a wall, I was sitting there watching every move they made. I came out of that note going, if I have the right gear, guys, I know how to do this. I already wrote kind of in the vein of John and Dino. I was surrounded by great musicians. So I'm like, if the opportunity comes around again, if I have the right singer, we'll do it. So anyways, Rise came and went. It didn't turn out the way I would have liked, and it didn't last very long because the 2 kids I was playing with, they moved on to other things in life. So here I was alone again, and I'd lost touch with Freddy for a while. And then his mom had passed, and we got together, and we were friends again, and we the love was all still there. And then around 2019,
it went away for something.
Yeah, so that's what happened with Rise. It was a very short, but it was something. It was something. I'm still glad we did it. I don't have any regrets. I got 5 killer songs on there that no one had heard. Somebody, Wither Me, and I felt that desire again to go, I forgot I can write these songs, and I'm not the world's worst at it, so I should probably write some more stuff.
Yeah.
So that put the bug there. But then Freddy came back around, and I'm like, well, I don't have a band. Me and Malcolm were always friends. I was best man I was his best man twice. I'm the worst best man too. I don't know why people keep asking me. I've been a best man 14 times. There's no bachelor party. I don't. I'm bad at it. But Freddy started talking about after. You guys have any more questions about Rise? Because I don't really. There's really not much. I don't really have much.
No, we're what I'm doing here, Stayce, is I'm checking out the time, and I'm trying to be respectful of your all's time. But what I simply would like to say in closing up about Evie is that, friends out there, if you haven't investigated Evie's Little Garden yet, and again, we've already said it's that wonderful arena, hard-driving rock that we all grew up with and know and love, the good stuff, the classic stuff. Yeah. It's all back. The production's remarkable on this. Stayce is singing lead vocals. Stayce, you've got the chops. You sound so good. And yes, you and Randy sound very, very similar. And top-notch album. Friends, you need to get Evie's Little Garden. But I also want to mention Freddy's back. Oh, I also wanted to say that Malcolm Paris from Battle Cries plays bass on this, and John Spittle from the Trust era plays drums on this. So you get a nice conglomeration of the Brave, and they sound wonderful. Freddy's back in the fold, and Stayce, you were telling us there is more in store for the Brave. Tell us what you and Freddy and perhaps Malcolm and John, tell us what you have on the horizon, what you're looking at.
Well, the first thing is, which even you guys don't know about yet, but you're going to see a Christmas song from us. I just played it for Freddy earlier today, and he's like, dude, that's killer. And I go, Merry Christmas. We're going to do a Christmas song.
I saw your post about that on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I already let the cat out of the bag, didn't I? Yeah, it may have been you I was telling, but I told somebody, I said, yeah, well, there may be a Christmas song in the works. There's a lot of songs I have that don't really fit in the Brave dynamic, but it doesn't mean that the Brave needs to be limited to just doing our rock stuff, you know. In our heart of hearts, we'd love to be picked up by the right record label, because, you know, when we were at Pachyderm, they were a smaller label. There was no tour support. They didn't have the ability to send you out on a real tour, like with a Skillet or a Striper. We have sent our stuff to Frontiers Records. We'll see if we get anything off that. But if the time comes where God decides to rise us up again, with the right conglomeration of this band, we will be all about it. As far as songs, I can't turn it off. It's like, John laughs at me all the time because he's like, man, this is how John talks. He goes, man, you're just a songwriting machine. And I'm like, well, it's not about that. It's like, is this right for us? Because not everything is. But I played this song for Freddy. It's kind of got a reggae feel, and he goes, we could tear this thing up, dude. This would be a lot of fun. Because we're always like, me and him are always looking for the acrobatics part of it.
Yeah.
Hey, what do we get to do on this? You know, and he's playing along with it while I'm playing the keyboard part and singing it to him, and he's like, we have to do this. So what's on the horizon is this. There will be at least one Christmas song that comes out before this Christmas. And it will sound like the Brave, but it'll be a version of the Brave that you really haven't heard anything like, because we're all Zeppelin fans. The great thing about Zeppelin is they would do anything. I love Chris Cornell. I mean, there's so many great bands around that will try different stuff, and we're going to do that. But next year, you're probably going to see a full-blown original Christmas album from us. Okay. Everyone that goes and does a Christmas album, they just give you their version of Jingle Bells, and I'm like, no, write something. Give me something new. Well, lucky day, because I got all kinds of tunes that would fit really well on a Christmas album that every year people could go, remember when they did this? That'd be a really nice thing to do. Mm-hmm. As far as the next album for us, we're already about a third through it. The songs are already there. We've got more than enough songs. And we decided we're probably going to record fully about 15 to 20, and we're going to pick the best of the best. So for those of you that like Evie's, and thank you all so much for supporting this album, because it's blown us away. I mean, I showed him today, I go, man, look at all these people from all around the world. I'm showing them the heat maps. We're blowing Europe up, Japan. We've never done anything in Japan, and they're starting to listen to us. Germany, Norway, Netherlands, America definitely is just really, really enjoying this record. It's been a blast.
Wonderful.
And so the next record, tentatively, we're calling it Gravedigger, because I've got this song me and Freddy were working on today called Gravedigger, and they're very blunt lyrics to the point, reminding people that, at some point somebody's going to dig your grave. And it's kind of a mythical guy that gets a list with millions of names, and his only job is to dig a 6x4 and dump your body in it. So the whole push of the song is get your affairs in order and get right with the Lord now, because your time is now. It's not tomorrow. It's not, 15 seconds ago. You're guaranteed nothing. You have a breath right now with the ability to accept Christ into your heart. So if you don't, there's a 6x4 hole waiting on you somewhere. So it'll be one of those ones that I think will inspire people, but it's a great song too. I mean, it's a cool song. Freddie was singing this song, going, how am I going to do this? No, don't worry about that. We'll get that in production. Just sing it.
Gravedigger will also be the album title, the new album title?
It's the working title right now, so I can't guarantee it, but what I can guarantee you is Freddie's going to be on it.
Awesome.
So, both vocally and guitar-wise, the two amigos are back in the saddle. And for those that like my guitar playing, you're going to get a double treat, because me and him, we could care less who solos on what. That's why we have solos and then outros of songs. If I didn't get the solo, you better know I'm going to show up on the outro, and the same with him. So, and we just love to turn each other loose. I will say one thing about this group. I've always had my hand in whatever the band was going to sound like, but I just write the songs, and then I let these guys do what they do. right? I don't suggest anything. If they're looking for answers, yeah, I'll give them suggestions. But John is an absolute animal on the drums, and I get so excited every time I see a WeTransfer file from him. Malcolm we have a song on the album called Breathe that Freddie and I had kind of pieced together years ago, but we've always this didn't get its just due. We need to record it. So it's already recorded.
Cemetery, Robert Cemetery.
Yeah, no, it was in the Tierra Robert Cemetery. We've got a lot of songs we co-wrote.
Robert Cemetery.
But we've already got 13 songs for the album. So, so it's gonna be a great record. It's gonna be one that if you love Evie's, you're gonna absolutely love Gravedigger.
Well, I'm looking forward to it because Evie's just smoked.
Stacey, can I talk to you about something else I've noticed about Evie's little garden?
Sure.
And I want to show some pictures.
Okay.
The artwork is just spectacular.
Thank you. We love it.
I even like on the CD. I mean, can you tell me who came up with the whole concept of that? And I know you guys probably put this out yourself. Man, as an independent release or whatever you want to call this, the artwork, I mean, look at this. The artwork is, I mean, this is top notch, and I'm not just saying that. That caught my eye as soon as I opened up the CD. I'm like, this is spectacular, high quality. I don't know who did that, but they get an A+ from me.
It's a gentleman out of Jacksonville, Florida. I found him on, you guys are going to love this, Fiverr. I go, there's got to be a graphic artist out there that can do what I would like to see, because I did have the concept for the album. You know, I already had Evie's, and you know, for those of you who haven't heard it, it tells the story of Adam and Eve and how they were in the garden, and the snake comes along and tries to tempt them. And if you look on the front of the album cover, the whole concept was for it to be hopeful, and they were in paradise. She's reaching for an apple, and there's a snake there talking to her. But when you flip the album over, and you'll see this on the vinyl too, it looks awesome. The artwork's a little different on the vinyl. So for those of you who are going to have the CD and the album, it'll be well worth the wait, because the album has its own kind of thing. Same artwork, but different layout. It's just another cool way to see it, right?
And then the tray.
We flip it over. Yeah, that's the tray. So the apple's been bit from. But if you look at the back of the album, it's not happy and sunshine. It's dark and gloomy, and the apple's been bit. So it shows the original sin going from paradise to, well, thanks, Evie. Now I got to work a job. You know, I just wish the job could be writing songs all day long. The guy's name is Hisham. I found him, struck up a great relationship. He can't wait. He goes, man, I hope so much that artwork like this would have cost in the thousands, and he was so reasonable. If you need albums designed for your album, go onto Fiverr and look for Hisham. It's Hisham. He's one of the coolest guys in the world. He can't wait to get started on the Gravedigger project. So I've already got JR lined up to mix the next record.
Wonderful.
We fund the whole thing ourselves. There's no help from anybody. We fund the whole thing by ourselves. And we agreed that after Rise kind of fell short of what our expectation and our demand for quality, we weren't going to take second best on anything. So I found these were the first drafts he sent me. What if I would have had him do a rewrite? Who knows? This guy was so amazing. I saw it and I go, that's exactly what I see in my head. Same colors, exactly what I wanted. So I sent it to the guys, and they were like, oh, wow, man. And they didn't get to see all the artwork until the album, you know, until all of these babies. Yes, this is where I ship them from.
Fragile.
So, but I mean, everything, even on the spine, you know, on both sides of the spine, he just took such great care of embracing what we were looking for. He understood what the whole plight of Evie was, and just did a phenomenal job.
It just reminds me of back in the day when we were kids, like, and albums and artwork, and
Absolutely.
You would just stare at that for hours and go, oh, I see this. Oh, I see that now. I mean, that caught my eye. The very first ad I saw for it, and that album cover, I was like, that is incredible. Holy cow.
The great thing about that, Rex, is that when you find someone, that's why I love playing with Fred, is when you find somebody that you have a kinship with and understands what a song needs. With Freddie, I can't tell you how many, he talks about a graveyard. There's so many licks that are in the guitar graveyard that I didn't keep because I knew he could do better, but they were phenomenal on their own. I'm like, man, if I did keep this would be crazy. The only song on Evie's that scared me that I had to play by myself was we had a previous version of it, and he played the solo on it that was Steve Vai on Caffeine, on Creep.
Oh, yeah.
There's some things that Freddie and I share that we do alike, but like he's better with chords. I'm better at knowing where the chords should go. You know, he's probably faster than me, but I don't play like him fast. I play more legato, and he's more slippery. He's more like Steve Vai, right? Whereas I'm more like probably Neil Sean, but we're both melodic. But Creep really was the one where I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to do here because I can't do what he did.
I don't even know what it was.
It was Creep. It was the solo. If I played it, he never can learn his own solos either, so it wouldn't have mattered if I had him back. He couldn't have done it again.
That is true.
So guys, I'm looking at the time, and we'll probably need to start heading that direction of closing shop here. But Stayce and Freddie, if y'all don't mind, I think we were going to be talking about one of the songs, maybe doing a little sample. Could you just set it up for us right now? Let the viewers know the demo that you're going to allow us to hear, and when I receive the file, I'll include it in this. Can you tell the viewers who, when they hear this, it'll be September the 18th, what song are they going to hear? Tell us about it. Set it up for us.
It's called Heaven Knows, and it's a really nice kind of almost, if you liked Running All My Life, you know, it's kind of like if you listen to We're Not in Kansas Anymore.
I think it's more like Live Without Your Love. No? No, it was. If you listen to We're Not in Kansas Anymore, it's in the same vein as Can't Let the Devil Win. Heaven Only Knows is a more modern type of version of maybe Running All My Life. So it's in that same vein. Doesn't sound like it, but it's in that kind of a vein. And maybe a little bit of Never Live Without Your Love. Running All My Life, 14 years old.
14 years old, that's right. He loves it. I think it was your riff, too. But the song is really about those of you that think that you're in a struggle that no one can understand, or that you think, you know, you've been broken down, your life is falling apart for whatever reason. Some stuff you may have control over, some stuff maybe you don't. But when you think you're all alone, heaven knows. You know, Jesus is right there, and he's got the answers you're looking for, and he's got the answer to the thing you're stressing about, or the thing that you're hurt about, or the person that abused you or hurt you. All the answers are there. And so the whole premise of the song is, for one, it rocks. It's a ballad, but it's a power ballad, so it rocks. There's a nice harmony guitar solo Freddie and I did in it, and it's got heavy keyboards. It's very John Elefante-ish, you know. But hey, he was my tutor, so what do you expect? So, but it's a really nice melodic ballad. If you like those 80s type of ballads, I think it's really gonna. Just remember, it's only me and Fred on it right now. I don't have John and Malcolm on it yet, but they're working. They've got the tracks, so they're working on them now. By the time you air this, they will have already played on it.
There's a ghost that holds you back while the enemy attacks. He's alive in your heart, and he'll break these chains apart. Heaven knows what you've been through. You know what to do, yeah, yeah. You know what to do.
I'm more excited about Gravedigger than I am the making of Evie's because I've got all my friends on board. You know, John, who's just, again, just a massive killer drummer with a great musicality about him. Freddy, who is music. He lives and breathes it. He's just music. And Malcolm has got a hearing impediment and is still laying down bass tracks like you wouldn't even believe. He just sent the bass tracks for a song we wrote called Breathe today. Spot on. The guy can't even hear. But it's like, well, see what God can do? All it takes is just a little seed of faith, and look what can happen. You know. So anyways, next album's going to be great. We'll keep you guys in the loop so that we can plan something together before it comes out. And we appreciate you. We love you. If you guys need any Brave swag or anything, just hit me up. You know how to get a hold of me. Every one of you have. So, and we will definitely do this again, guys.
Yeah. So we're going to head over to Scripture Closeout. Mike's our resident minister. He's the pastor of the church. And,
good stuff.
Mike, can you take us home with Scripture Closeout, buddy?
Sure. Basically, in honor of the name, I picked out Joshua 1:9, which says, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go."
Awesome.
So,
amen to that.
That's right. So, man, what a pleasure. We were originally, we just thought we were going to be talking to Stayce today, friends. And he's like, you know, we're kind of doing the meet and greet at the onset. And he's like, yeah, you know, Freddy's right over here. And if y'all like to talk to him? And I'm like, it's Freddy Tierra, man, you know. So we're going to sign off, Stayce and Freddy, and we'll say goodbye to our friends. But before y'all completely leave, just hang around for one moment after we sign off.
Sure.
So, it's been an honor.
It's our pleasure, man. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Stayce. Thank you, Freddie. Thank you, friends, for watching. We appreciate everybody.
Appreciate
Take care.